Stepping up the porch stoop. Hey guys, Kevin here. Oh, wow, it's cold out here. And it's probably, I'm guessing, low 40s. So we're gonna talk about my compost pile today. But they're really coming on now. Look at that. I mean, the birds, you hear the crows, you hear the sparrows, you hear the cardinals. Look, there's a cardinal right there. This guy's, he's kind of tame. So, very friendly. Anyway, we have lots of cardinals. Okay, compost. So you could see the bin over here. Bins, my whole area. Let me just get that way up there. I'm back. Something happened there with the video. I think I hit a button. There's my compost enclosure, guys. Mattress, blow up mattress thing away. Now you might see some little trails in here. That's not vermin. Let's see, look at this stuff breaking down right here, guys. See those little fuzzies? That's nature at work doing its thing. Yeah, cool. You can see like a tunnel right there, right where I'm pointing with this stick. There's a tunnel that goes down in there. I think that's a black snake. There was a young black snake about 2 or 3 feet long hanging out in here when it was still warm in the autumn time, like in October, when this thing had been sitting already for a month or so. By the way, I've turned this once. It was in this bin. I've moved it over to this bin, hence the 3-bin setup. I want to always have one cooking and a spot that I'm able to dump it over, because you want to turn it after 2 or 3 weeks. Your pile's going to heat up. When it starts to cool down, you want to turn that pile into a new bin and get it heated up again. Make sure your moisture is just right. It should be like a chocolate cake, like a nice cooked cake. You could squeeze it together and it's not dripping. That's too drippy. It's going to get stinky and you're going to attract weird critters you don't want in there. And you'll get an anaerobic breakdown, lack of air breakdown, because when you have too much moisture, it dispels air and you need air for breakdown. So we want aerobic. So, but anyway, so you can take a look here. Hopefully that black snake's not going to be disturbed later in the spring when I start to harvest this. Check this out. So on top, obviously you see stuff on the surface here. These little balls are sweet gum, and there's pine needles, and there's a few other things. There's even little plants trying to sprout, but check out underneath here. Isn't this great? I took a half a bucket into my wife. My nose doesn't work good since an accident I had several years ago. So smell is one of the ways you could tell that compost is ready. As soon as I took it into my wife's office and she just had her head over the bucket, she was like, "Ooh, that smells good." So good deal. Plus I'm finding earthworms in here. So, but just look at this, guys, how wonderful this looks. So I'm going to screen this. There's still a lot of little pieces in there, but this stuff is ready. The further down I dig, the finer it will get. When I screen it, it will be the ultimate of fineness. And I will take the stuff that's left behind on top of the screen and I'll use that in my next compost, or I'll just use it for mulch, probably on top of some of my beds. So you can use compost as a soil amendment immediately available to the roots, or it can go on top roughly as a cover. You always want to keep your stuff covered. So look up in the top corner, you'll see these baby onions that I'm going to plant. The reason I need to start harvesting this stuff, these onions are going out in the next week. It's cool out, but they love the cool weather, and I got to get them started so I can get bulbs by midsummer. So those onions, little guys, there's 3 kinds. I need fine soil, screen soil. So when I come back, you're going to see how the screen's pre or post screened compost looks compared to what I just showed you in my hand. See you in a minute. Okay, gang, here we are, round 2, 8 o'clock tomato talk with the compost. Now remember, we have the compost enclosure right over here that we got. See, I've got it still partially uncovered there. Right in that corner there, I dug up about a 5-gallon wheelbarrow full of this. We're going to plant onions into it, and so we need really fine compost soil. There's a good place, there's a time and a place for unsifted compost, which is what this is on top of this screen that I built a while back, just out of 1x2s and 2x4s and some screws, a couple corner pieces. I'll show that sometime in a future video, how I built that little guy. There's a time and a place for rough compost, but this is the time and place for screened compost, because we're going to put some baby onion seedlings in there, and they're very fragile and they need some good fine soil to work those roots into. We'll later on top dress it with some of this rough compost. By the way, it's very cold. Zone 6B. This weather is just, it's turned cold on us. The high was 41 today. We've got a high in the mid-30s coming up. Mid-March, Christmas. Christmas is still persisting. Winter is still persisting. But we're going to hang in there. Spring is coming. The hopefulness of a gardener. I just love that part of it. So anyway, let's do some screening. We're going to show you how we're screening this compost today. So just going to work it through here with my hand. Kind of work it around, and I don't get too crazy. All the little nuggets and stuff that are left behind, I'm going to add either as top dressing onto my beds once they get growing. So here we go. That's pretty good. Now let's take a look at what's underneath, guys. This is really the foundation of a no-till garden, of any garden, but in particular a no-till garden, because as the seasons pass, as the harvests get brought in, we just simply layer some of this screened compost or unscreened compost over the top, and it's good for the next round of veggies. That's how we feed our soil, from the top down. And so let's take a look here. So check this out. Look at all this stuff, guys. This is just, can you see that in there? Just beautiful, beautiful, rich, dark compost. Some of that's light because I had some lighter mud in the bottom of this wheelbarrow, but take a look at that. Isn't that wonderful? And this is what we'll be planting those onion seedlings into. You can plant all kinds of seedlings. You can make your potting mix in the spring out of this, mixed with a little vermiculite and coconut coir. This would be the power-packed protein side of it all. This part being part of that component of your potting mix. But for now, so there's a shot of it screened underneath, compared, isn't that wonderful, to the unscreened stuff on top, which will go back in my compost bin. See you on part 3 in just a second here, and we'll be planting the onions. That'll probably be in a week from now when this weather shapes up. We'll be planting the onions into their new bed in the north garden. Talk to you in a second.